All right.
Welcome, everybody.
Hello and welcome all.
We'll get started in a couple of minutes or so.
Yeah, and as we get everybody in and settled, if you want to share with us in our Zoom chat where in the world you are located, that's always a fun game to play. All right, we got a Wisconsin.
We got the East
USA
Coast, the
has
Midwest,
one.
and the West all covered, so that's good.
That's right. On Idaho, welcome, Michelle. And my pal from Milwaukee, I think we've got two people from Wisconsin here.
Joe's here. Hey,
I know
Joe.
one of them I know quite well.
Yeah, drop in the chat where you're from, and we'll get started in a minute or two.
Exactly.
Got almost a quorum. Hopefully, everybody has their AI ears on today.
Yeah. All right. What do you say we get rolling, Kenny?
Let's get rolling. Let's
Okay.
throw it in there. Let's
All right.
let's
Oh,
let's get people excited.
that's right. Yes. Get excited. That's my general brand, as you know, Kenny. It's enthusiasm. So joking aside, I am excited about the presentation that we have in front of us today. We are here to talk about this AI report that we ran. And I kind of have a promise for everybody as we start. We want you to leave with real insights from what we collected, not just feelings or predictions. We're going to highlight gaps between individuals and their teams from the use and adoption of AI. And this comes from the 250 plus product leaders that told us so. And we've mapped it all to 5 steps that separate the teams from getting results and the teams that are just staying busy. So, a hello and big warm welcome from me to all of you. I'm Ryan. I'm the Vice President of Product and Services at Productside and the host of the Product Porch podcast. So, I'll be your speaker today and walking you through the report and all of the interesting things that we have to say. And I've got a partner in crime with me. So I have Kenny here. If you want to introduce yourself, Kenny.
Sure. I'm also a employee at Productside, but I do consulting and training. And hopefully, and I'll be monitoring chat, questions, that kind of stuff, and sometimes throwing little tidbits of information in just to get Ryan all nervous. So drop your questions in chat or drop them in Q&A. I'll make sure that we answer them either in process or at the end. So enjoy. And a quick word on Productside, the sponsors of today's session. Productside helps product teams build products that people really want to use, they want to buy, they want to provide money for you. The way we do it, it's really sort of grown a lot. We start with assessments to see where organizations stand. We throw in a little bit of training to help build the muscles as they grow. And we add some advisory service on tops where we sit beside your teams to help you make some of the hard calls and products. We have three of the different levers, but our real one goal is to help drive business outcomes that each individual company can point to. And the timing matters. AI is starting to rewrite exactly what good product management looks like. And it's a shift that we're starting to help organizations lead right now. So we're here as your partners in product, hopefully being that friendly companion that can always turn to and hopefully trust. Now let's talk about the session today a little bit. Um, quick housekeeping, then we'll jump in. Please ask questions. You can use either the Q&A panel, or if you just want to throw it into the chat window, I'll monitor out both of them so we have them. The first question we get from every time we run this is, can I watch this later? And the answer is a affirmative yes. You'll get the recording link in your in your inbox after we end the whole thing. Relax, you won't miss anything. And as I said, while we're live, please talk to us. Drop some questions in Q&A as they hit you. Don't sit and wait till the end. I'm going to keep watching, make sure that if we need to interrupt Ryan, we will. And use the chat with each other too. Compare notes, swap some war stories, uh, tell someone about your AI rollout, something that might be painful or familiar. You'll get as much from the room as you get from Ryan and myself. Don't hold back. This works best when it's really more of a conversation than anything else. And one quick ask before we dig into the webinar, connect with us on LinkedIn. We're here to be your partners in product. And our community is really sort of a free and open path to that partnership. We put a whole bunch of leadership stuff worth stealing, we hope. We put things like AI tips and tricks. We help drive an ongoing argument about what makes product management work. And we have a host of people connected who are wrestling with some of the same problems that you probably are. So scan the code or hit the link that probably was shared out in chat. Only takes about 10 seconds. Then stick around for some comments. Continue the conversation that we have in this hour on our LinkedIn site. It doesn't have to end when our presentation ends. Keep it going. And
Absolutely.
without further ado, I'll have Ryan take it and drive our discussion about the five things, the key things we learned in our 2026 State of the AI for Product Management report.
Awesome. Thanks, Kenny. And as we look ahead, everybody, the next amount of time that we have together, I want to highlight that the first gap that we're going to show you that our data exposed is interesting. So we're gonna deliver that right at the top, and then we're gonna show you how to overcome it. That's the 5 steps in detail, and then where we'll set a starting point so you can close your laptop and you can actually go put some things into practice before we finish with our Q&A session. So we're here and we're ready for you. But as we look at the presentation today, this is why we're all here. We have launched Productside's annual report. This is our state of AI for product management. It is free and accessible to everyone here. The link just went into chat, so please do grab it. Your Everybody, I've got to say, you're hearing, oh, another AI report. Your inbox is probably drowning in AI reports right now, and most of them are the same. Somebody runs a survey with 1,000 executives and asks about how they feel about AI. And they turn it into a glossy chart that feels or that tells you to embrace transformation. AI transformation is happening. But I feel like this one's a little different, and it's different on purpose. We asked product practitioners, professionals, more than 250 of them, of people who are actually shipping, and we focused on 2 separate questions. How you, the individual, use AI day to day, and what your organizations are doing about it. And that contrast is what is meaningful about what we have to say today. You'll see in a minute that some surprises live there. So whether you're a product manager, a product owner, a leader, or otherwise, you're across 20 industries and 7 regions, we've got a clean base of 253 data points that we're ready to share with you. And every number today comes from those people who do the job, not the people who watch others do it. So let's start with a gap. And this is the finding that surprised us most. Your personal AI skills are racing ahead of your company's ability to do anything with them. And this tells us that you're good at it, genuinely. Your organization, more often than not, is proving to be the one that's dragging its excuse me, that's dragging its feet. Think of a teenager with a learner's permit who can parallel park better than their parents, but nobody will hand that driver the keys. And that's most of you right now. You've got the skill using AI, but the system around you isn't up to snuff. And that gap isn't free. It's costing teams momentum, budget, credibility. And you're seeing money spent on tools that aren't really governed well, or you can't prove if it worked well, or every time you can't show a number, you hand the Office AI skeptic another reason to smirk back at you. So let's dig into that and get into that gap in a little more detail because 4 in 5 product managers are using AI every single day. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. It certainly wasn't for us. But sit with that a second. It's not a pilot, and it's not a few early adopters either, poking at ChatGPT between meetings. That's the workforce. I mean, it's part of the job. It's what we do. AI is already inside of the work and workflows that happen every day, whether anyone made it official or not. So the question stops being, should we use this? That ship sailed. And the real question is whether the company around you is built to make all that effort add up to something. So right now, mostly it isn't, as we've seen. So if everyone's using AI, what's the problem, Ryan? We're kind of got to ask that question. And there are 3 things missing, and they're always the same 3. The first is no documented strategy around AI. AI grew from the bottom up. Everyone teaching themselves, experimenting, with nobody pointing in the same direction. And second, there's no named owner. So every real decision stalls on, wait, whose call is this beyond personal adoption? And when that happens, it's nobody's. And finally, we have no way to measure it. Teams genuinely can't tell you if any of it's working or worth the spend. Sometimes they can, but definitely more often than not, there is a missing metric there. And skill without structure doesn't earn you results. It gets you a lot of busy people and not much to show for it. So, one thing I do want to leave with you here right off the top is before any of the big stuff, in your next team meeting, ask one question out loud, everybody. Who owns our AI direction? And just watch what happens. If the room goes quiet and everyone looks at each other, wondering, well, we don't know how to answer this, you found your first gap. And naming it is half the fix. So check that out. Like we're gonna come back to this, the especially strategy, ownership, and measurement. You're gonna hear some repeating themes throughout what we have to share today. Now, for some information, some data from the report. This chart is the gap made visible. So let me walk you through it on how to interpret what you're seeing, because the numbers underneath all of it tell a very clean story. Okay, so I want you to imagine, everybody, 2 different ladders with, like, you can climb up the ladder. Each ladder has 5 rungs on it. On the left, we have individual AI capability. So that's ladder number 1. That is how you personally use AI in your own work. You're curious at the bottom, then active and aligned, and then embedded and leading at the top. On the right, the parallel ladder is the same 5 rungs, but for the organization. Improvised, emerging, governed, embedded, and scaled. And the underlying information or the data from the report tells us that most individuals cluster around rungs 2 and 3, active and aligned. They use AI daily. They're starting to challenge it and pressure test its outputs and be responsible. But most organizations sit 1 rung lower at emerging. That means AI use is real and visible, but strategy is still forming. Policy has gaps and ownership is unclear. And it's not a handful of teams either. 44%. Yes, 44% showed this exact split. Individual maturity sitting a full rung or more above organizational maturity. And that single most common pattern is the big takeaway for us. So picture it. You're sprinting up the ladder on the left while your company is still down at the bottom on the one at the right, lacing up its shoes. That's the kind of the two-part problem in one image. And this chart isn't here to make you feel stuck. It's a map. It tells us whenever those two ladders split for your team, that's the gap that we need to close. And that's the thing we try to close next. And kind of the rest, what I have to share with you today. So let's make that gap that I just highlighted between individuals and organizations a little more concrete with a few numbers. First, 80% of you use AI every day. The report was very clear about that. It's widely adopted and very mainstream, full stop. Now, watch the other three numbers fall off a cliff. First, 48% of companies are investing in customer-facing AI with no clear thesis for why. That is wishes and prayers in product development speak. Then we have only 23% of companies have a real AI strategy with someone owning it. There's no accountability. So things are happening, but with no accountability behind it. And finally, only 35% have a documented policy on how to govern AI. And the rest are just improvising. It's like just making calls when they need to without any guardrails to keep people consistent. So there we go. We are seeing that gap very plainly in the information that we collected. So before we go any further, we have a quick poll so we can read the room. What is slowing your AI progress the most right now?
Just pick one of the five that's
Yeah.
most slowing your progress. Give it a couple more seconds for everybody to fill in their poll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. So we're seeing some interesting stuff coming. We'll share the results when we close it out.
Maybe we can probably close it out. Here are the results.
There we go. So what you're seeing on the slide, we have a clear winner, Kenny.
Yeah,
No
we
clear
do.
ownership or strategy.
So yeah, so it's that ownership and strategy that's the big problem, huh?
Ownership and strategy. That is a
Interesting.
big.
Data quality was only one. That's
Yeah, data
interesting.
quality was only one, but and that's interesting because I would have if I were to place a bet, our report uncovered that data quality was the number one blocker named across the survey, in
Yeah,
fact.
so this is different. This is different.
Yeah, so it was almost half of respondents pointed to data quality as one. So and perhaps there might be some downstream impact, like with no clear owner, data is not accessible or quality hygiene isn't there, but we'll talk about that a little bit as we go
Yeah.
forward too. All right, excellent. Thank you, everybody. So let's look at the five steps. As we as we keep going, part two, after looking at the data, is the five steps that move us from scattered experimentation with AI to results that we can measure, real outcomes and impact. And they come straight out of what we collected from the report. And that is what are the highest performing teams doing differently than everybody else? So as we look at that picture, here's where they are at a glance. We go through from experimentations to outcomes, and we've got to highlight first, fix the data. Close the strategy gap is second. Build the right skills and put governance in place that people will use, not governance that gets in the way. And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, we need to measure what leadership will fund. Notice that that sits at the bottom, but it's like the cornerstone of what we have. And that order is deliberate, 1 through 5. Each one unlocks the next as we go through. So now we're going to look at these 5 different turns, and we're going to show you what you can do about it as product professionals in the world. So let's start with step 1. Before we think about better tools, better models, or better prompts, we need better data. That is the step most organizations skip because it's unglamorous. It's also the step that determines whether everything else works. And Kenny, I'm sure in your professional career, you've never dealt with bad data hygiene, have you?
Oh yeah, it never happens. Never happens.
Oh my gosh.
Even
Yeah.
it becomes garbage in, garbage out at some level. If you got bad data, you're going to get bad results. So
Yeah. And I just want to recognize and validate everybody here. It is almost universal. Like there's no such thing as perfect. It's we can do as good as possible. There's always room for improvement, but data cleaning is always a fun exercise as we go through it. So as we look at fixing the data foundation, the information you see here on the slide is very blunt. Data quality is a blocker named across the people that responded to the report. And that was nearly half of respondents. 101 out of 246 pointed right there. And nothing else was even close. And the quote that you see on the slide really nails it at what it feels like on the ground. Siloed data, incomplete data sets, nobody's sure who owns what. So we're kind of like straying into that ownership, no clear ownership, which is what you all highlighted. Because without them, we don't know what good means or what data should look like. So this is the part I see people miss sometimes, is that AI doesn't fix bad data. In fact, it turns up the volume on bad data. It makes it worse. If we feed it a mess, it'll hand you a faster, more confident mess. So we don't want to do that. It's a megaphone, not a filter. Point a megaphone at a garbage and everybody just hears the garbage sooner. So we look for those traps. And before we maybe start building anything with AI or building AI on top of our data, we need to take a look at that foundation and fix what's underneath it. That's a point that we can really have some control over, and it's going to put us in a lot stronger position to be successful. So now we're asking, well, how do we fix it then? And as I go through them, I want to call out that notice it's when we start talking about data, it's very easy to start thinking in terms of boiling the ocean. There's data housed in different places and different reports and silos, and getting access to it is different, all kinds of stuff. And trying to understand and mapping that will put us in a better place to begin by mapping where data lives and how to access it, and even who controls it and owns it, puts us in a spot to get started. And most teams, as you go through an exercise like this, can be genuinely surprised here. You'll start to see data does live in more places than you thought. And it's accessed by more tools than you ever thought were possible to access it from. So know that it's everywhere, and it's up to us to start to go build that map. And then once we have a picture of what's going on, we can start to fix what matters first. Not everything, just the highest leverage sources your real AI use cases depend on. So what I'm saying is don't go deep clean the whole house before your guests come over. Only clean the rooms that they'll see. And that way, you won't boil the ocean. So third, you got to set a quality bar. We need to know what that should look like. And that is deciding up front what an AI output has to clear before it reaches a customer. Maybe that's something or sounds something like this, but it could be our recommendation engine needs an 80% relevance score before it surfaces anything. And that quality bar is different for different products and types. This goes back, I think maybe a couple of years ago, but Kenny, remember the Air Canada fiasco?
yeah.
Yeah, that was did not get anywhere close to clearing a quality bar. So if anyone's unfamiliar with that, you can go look it up, the Air Canada debacle. But maybe now we can take a look at that human in the loop check. Maybe we need that first to get things going. And that's where every AI generated product description or output that we get from AI does get some eyes on it before it publishes to give us that confidence we need to clear the quality bar. So as we look at these three things, map it, just take the high level view, understand where it lives. Then prioritize and fix what matters. Set the clear ideas for this is the most important data that we focus on first. So you're not doing it all at once. And then finally, know what good looks like. That's setting the bar. And as we go through this, this gets you started. And you're gonna find it's unglamorous. Nobody's gonna clap, and that's fine. It's the foundation for the next four steps, and it'll put you in a spot to do some really good work. So as we do look at the next step, we have step two. You've got the data foundation in place. Now you need something to build on top of it. Because here's what happens without a strategy. Every AI decision becomes a judgment call, and 100 smart people making 100 separate judgment calls to a direction. They add up to 100 directions. That's not a team using AI. That's a bunch of solo experiments wearing the same company logo, which is where we see most organizations playing today. So we want to fix a little bit of that. And here we're trying to get at why so many AI efforts stall, even when everyone's clearly using the tools. It feels a little counterintuitive. There's two numbers you see here on the slide. 40% of teams are still developing their AI strategy. Okay, we learned that from the report, and 22% of them are running fully bottom up, which is the polite way of saying with no coordination at all. Everyone is improvising, nobody is aligned. And very similarly, I really like the quote that we pulled out of the report for this one, where everybody is using AI in their own way. No common strategy, no shared goals. And that's a principal product manager from the manufacturing industry seeing AI use happening in their own organization. And it's the whole problem in one breath. Personal adoption high, organizational alignment missing. And there is that gap again, where the value starts to leak out. Not because people aren't trying, but because nobody pointed at trying in the same direction. It's a constant push and pull where everyone's on a different rope. There's lots of effort, and the flag just doesn't move. So the question we start asking is, does our team share an understanding of what AI is for? Or is it still everyone running in it's their own little pilot in their at their workstation? And that's what fixing that foundation starts to close, is that particular gap. So now let's look at how we can do that. Similarly, another three things we can help you with. And I got good news. The fix here isn't necessarily heavy. You don't need a 40-page strategy doc that nobody reads. In fact, that's useless to me in general. At first, I would name what the AI is for, and as product people, that we're in a strong position to do that. Let's start to understand what value we expect it to deliver, whether it's for us ourselves internally or externally. That's what we do. We're going to pick two or three of those outcomes that it should move. Maybe it's revenue, maybe it's speed, maybe it's quality or risk. We have to pick one. And after we pick those, everything else becomes noise until those that are written down are achieved and everyone's nodding at the same list. Like, there's our target, aim at it. Everything else needs to be blurry. So after we start to name what it's for, we can now look at ownership. So many of you here identified no clear ownership and strategy as a big missing piece in your organization. So as you probably see yourselves, is that a strategy with no name attached is really difficult to execute. That's not really a strategy, it's a suggestion. And putting even a person accountable for that direction, for priorities, and for breaking the tie when two teams want to pull opposite ways can be really powerful at setting yourself and your company up for success. So we're building that maturity on the corporate side by doing that. And Kenny, I want to kind of have a quick conversation with you here because I'm sure many product people listening today are thinking like, what power do I have to make the accountable person that accountable person? And my recommendation is you don't need to go assign it and tell anybody what to do, but we need to start having conversations with people to show them what's possible and kind of be an advocate for pushing our organization in this direction. We need to evangelize for that. That's, I think, how we can do it. What do you think, Kenny?
I think you push from the bottom up to ask for the top down. You say, here's where I think AI can help us.
Mm.
But we need to align it. How do I align this potential opportunity I have with AI with others across the organization? So push up, talk with your manager, talk, even skip level at some point, and ask for, hey, I don't want to be I don't want to be an island out here. We can do this better together, and ask for some level of strategy and or ownership within the organization. Maybe it comes back to you, and the great opportunity to grab the brass ring and run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that touches on our last poll. We had no clear ownership of strategy, but also getting stakeholders aligned. I think what you're suggesting, Kenny, helps in both of those areas, right? Yeah, push from the bottom up to help get top down support. And by becoming that advocate in the organization, we need to align our stakeholders around the same outcomes. What is AI for? And again, we know how to do that. That's a product superpower, aligning everybody on outcomes. Let's do it now for AI to help bring our organization along for the ride. Okay, so good. I thank you, Kenny. I'm glad we had that conversation. It was important. And then finally, we've got now our shared playbook. As we're working, using, implementing, trying to influence the organization, we see that 22% of teams have zero central coordination. So take your scattered pilots, and we need to start giving them a common way of working. And that is in how we test AI, how we measure it, and is it helping us or not helping us, and then how we share those results of that test. So we need to treat our use of AI not just as like cool thing I did over here, but no, treat it like an experiment. What's our assumption going in? What's our win condition to say this is helping us or not helping us? And is that worth the investment? How will we measure that? And no, is it a win or no? We need to go look in other areas for things. So that way, as if we treat it like an experimentation program, like we do with our products and with customers, we're starting to build an engine. We're learning compounds instead of evaporating every time someone moves like in their own little domain and it works over here and then it doesn't translate to everybody else. So we're trying to capture and put some boundaries around that with a little bit better. So yeah, just define it. Like, and as a product person, this is where I think we could have some influence here too, Kenny. Like, bring your experimentation philosophy to the party, like to the organization. Like, not a lot of other teams might be familiar with how that works. Guide other teams through, let's surface assumptions on what we think AI can and can't do for us. And then let's design a couple of tests to figure it out. Are those a true or not true? And know what a yes or a no is, or a win or a loss is. And we can put ourselves or make ourselves more valuable to our organizations by behaving in that way, looking beyond our product and maybe helping them mature. All right. So the whole idea, everybody, set the direction from the center. And then by establishing that playbook, having an owner, and naming what the AI is for, we can let teams run locally. So we're not disrupting the way things are today. And that means alignment, not micromanagement. I just want to kind of push on that quickly. All right. So there's skill or step two in the process. So we've got data, and then here we have driving some accountability. So let's look at step three. And I was a little surprised here when I saw this from the report because it points somewhere most companies aren't looking. We turn like it turns out from the information that we got that the focus is on the skill people need that will help the least to improve the organization. So it's like that what they think they need, in fact, isn't the thing. So let's define that. So what we see here is the most useful number, almost of the whole report for especially for product leaders. So product people score themselves a 7.5 out of 10 on prompting and experimentation. Hey, it makes sense. We do it all the time. We've gotten good at it. And that those are the things that we're doing regularly, and we've gotten good through repetition. Regular use in a lot now, many more use cases. But on the value mapping and strategic assessment, 5.9 out of 10. And 28% rate themselves a 1 to 4 on connecting AI to actual business value. That is the lower 40%. So more than a quarter of product managers are basically saying, oh, I can drive this thing, but I just can't tell you where it's going. So we're finding ourselves in this position where the handoff stuff develops on its own, but the stuff that connects AI to outcomes doesn't. It just never shows up. So the insight is that product managers inside companies with a clear AI strategy, this is really interesting. If we have an organization that is more mature, they score nearly 2 points higher on every one of these skills. So the organization is having an outward influence, multiplying the individuals. That was awesome. Like when I see this, like the rising tide lifts all ships. The organization is the rising tide. And that direction makes individuals better. So as we move through this step, and we start to put these things in place from step 1 to 2 and now 3, we're quietly leveling up the whole team. And again, we have the quote that we took away from the report where people say, I use it every day, and I still think I've got a lot to learn. And that's very honest, and that's great. And the data certainly agrees with them. There's always room for improvement. All right, so again, 3 things we can do to try and influence at this particular step, step number 3. So product managers are getting good at the hands-on stuff with AI, prompting, experimenting, iterating. People are already at a 7.5 there. We want to aim development at the 3 lowest scores that we found, which is value mapping, cross-functional collaboration, and strategic assessment. That's where leverage is hiding. So if we focus on those areas, we can start to say, where is AI creating value? That's our value mapping. Where can we bring teams together to create AI value, cross-functional collaboration, and understanding that strategy that we talked about in the last step? How do we use AI to enhance our strategy and put it into practice? So as we move on from the first thing we can do here and looking at targeting the right skills for ourselves, we can make the value that AI delivers the center of everything. Sit with that 28% again that I talked about in the last slide. More than a quarter of the product managers who responded can't confidently connect AI to business value. And that doesn't fix itself through daily use. It needs you, product leadership, putting it in how you develop your team, how you run your reviews, how you even incent and reward the people for exhibiting the behaviors you want them to exhibit. And by focusing on value, by assigning things a tangible metric that we can connect to, again, like speed or revenue or efficiency gains, all those things, we are showing leaders how the work that we do with AI does have a positive impact. And finally, invest in strategy, which I know is step 2 showing up again, but it's earned its second appearance. because clear AI direction lifts skill scores by nearly 2 points across the board. So if skill building isn't really sticking, like how to write prompts better or things like that, it might not be a problem with how you train and educate people to build those skills. It might be that there's no strategic ground for it to take root in. We need to have that strategy at the foundation. And I think this is a good opportunity as we look at targeting the right skills, centering on value, and giving people the context to use what they learn. The three things that we see here work together or not at all. And especially as we look at targeting the right skills, Kenny, I have something for everybody. We talked about where product managers score high and where they score low. Naturally, you might be thinking is, whoa, where do I land if you didn't take the survey? Where do I fit? So we built a free diagnostic that benchmarks your product management skills. AI fluency is included, and that's against a global cohort of product people. So you can benchmark yourself and see where things fall. So it just takes a few minutes. So check it out, everybody. You get a very personalized report at the end, and it'll tell you where you shine, where you need to focus, and how you stack up against everyone else doing the job. So it's the same skill data from the report pointed at you specifically. So now I think
Links in the
the link
chat.
the link is in the chat. There we go. So links in chat. It's worth doing this week while it's still fresh before your next meeting swallows your calendar. So I'll recommend everybody check it out and give it a go. It is quite useful. All right. So now here we go. Step four, um, data strategy skills and now governance. And Kenny, I can feel it. Can you? When I say the word governance, the energy leaves
They
the
might want to
room.
leave.
Yeah. Oh no.
Don't lose everybody, hopefully, by saying that.
So if governance sounds like the meeting where good ideas go to fill out forms, you're not alone. But let me reframe it before I start. If done right, governance doesn't add friction, it removes it. The whole goal is guardrails people use, not a policy binder that lives on a shelf, making everyone feel vaguely guilty they're not looking at it. So I promise I'm not gonna get bureaucratic on you, Kenny, and
Good.
offer red tape because that's not the point. So all right, let's take a look. Here's where most teams are. 65% of product managers are working with no clearly documented AI policy, making judgment calls every single day with no reference point for any of them. And 9% of those have no guidelines whatsoever, just not, it's absent. So it's a total open road in those cases. And as we look at the information we see here, that gives us a lot of choice, not a lot of clarity, and we got to figure out what risks are circling around us that might get us in trouble. And that kind of puts us in a position that creates paralysis. Like we're frozen. It's like the fight, flight, or freeze. We're frozen. We're stood there frozen. So I guess hear me out, everybody, because people get it backwards. Having no policy does not mean no AI. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying because you don't have a policy, you shouldn't have AI. People are using it regardless. In fact, 80% of them are, a vast majority. No policy just means harder, it's more difficult, I should say, to assign accountability. There's no agreed to bar for good. You can't clear the bar. And there's no answer when something goes sideways because things go sideways. And that's what governance is supposed to do, is help us in those areas. It's like having a four-way intersection with no stop signs. Everyone's still driving through it, but you just don't find out it was a problem until two cars meet in the middle. So we're using governance to try to make sure we stick together, we're aimed at the right target, and nobody can run astray. So as we talk about governance for those of us who zone out when we think about bureaucracy, first, I want to tell you, I'm not talking about that policy binder. It's one page. One. Start with guardrails. People can remember. And I guess the important part there is things they can remember. Because a policy nobody remembers is a policy nobody follows. If it needs a table of contents, you've already lost, dear friends. We need to put it in a context and make it accessible for people. So even look at engaging your stakeholders in this area too, because everyone's tinkering with AI now, but why not engage them in the process of setting some policy guidelines on that one-page document to draw them into the process to win some buy-in and support. Second, we have to make it the safe path through policy, the easy path. And this is the real trick. Don't police people into compliance. Design it in. Bake the good defaults right into the everyday workflow. So the responsible choice is also the path of least resistance. People don't resist guardrails. They resist what feels unnecessary. So we don't want to go overboard and put anything in that feels unnecessary. So you're not just doing policy for policy's sake. You're doing it for particular reasons, and we can help others understand the why behind our policy so it doesn't feel unnecessary. And third, surprise, surprise, it comes up again. Name an owner. It's the same drumbeat as every other step for the same reasons. Governance without a name on it, it quietly rots. And someone has to own keeping it alive, or in 6 months, it's a document that has gotten sucked into the black hole of SharePoint that nobody opens. So we're gonna try to prevent that as much as we can. So keep it light, one page. Make the default easy and select an owner. And there you go. Governance that survives with real work that you're doing today. And we can have some influence over that. All right, so let's run our second poll. Let's pull that
Let's
up.
go.
And this is before we get into step five. It's how are we currently measuring the ROI of our AI investment? So we've got some options here. We're going to
If
take a
you're measuring
look.
it. Give a few more seconds for everybody to jot in an answer.
Yeah, I have a prediction, Kenny. I'm trying not to look at the responses.
The
We're going to see if my prediction's right.
one I added, I bet.
Maybe. All right, let's see if you're seeing the pop-up, go ahead and respond to the poll. We're going to close it down in another 10 or 15 seconds.
Two-horse race.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay, we can probably end it.
All right, let's do it. So
All
share those
right.
results. And there is a winner. We've got productivity as the winner. That's the one I would have picked, Kenny.
And I
Productivity.
was picking the bottom one, not measuring.
Ah, yeah, the bottom one was a close second. That's close. So, not currently measuring doesn't surprise me, as we've heard consistently that that's been a theme that we found after running our State of the AI report. And in a minute, I'm going to try to make the case that productivity in particular, it's the weakest thing, like actually not measuring and even productivity, how if we approach our teams in the right way. So if you're not measuring and you jump to productivity, we're going to see where that might be a little bit of a trap. So we
And I
can,
bet people are measuring productivity by usage too, which is
aha.
even
So
worse.
outputs instead of outcomes, Kenny.
Yeah, just my
Yeah.
bet.
Okay. So all right. So let's take a look. Step five. And this is the one that keeps the other four funded. You can nail all of it, everybody. Clean data, sharp strategy, strong skills, governance, people love. But if leadership can't see what AI is worth to the business in plain numbers, the budget conversation gets ugly fast. Tools you can't justify are tools that get cut. Step five is all about making the case in the language leadership already speaks. Not your language, their language. So let's take a look. If you clicked on not measuring currently, and many of you did just a minute ago, you've got plenty of company. 24% of teams don't measure AI's impact at all. And only 16% connect it to customer and business outcomes. So the vast majority are flying with no instruments. And measurement isn't separate from skill. it's tangled up with it. PMs who invest with clear goals score 6.7 on value mapping, and the ones who are still just experimenting score a 5.1. And knowing why you're doing it makes you better at doing it. With agentic AI cost climbing, token limits, and everything else, the pressure to justify the spend only goes up from here. So take a team using AI to triage support tickets. The activity metric is we are triaging faster. That's fine. But nobody in the C-suite cares that you're triaging tickets faster. The outcome metric is, if we were to rewrite it, we cut resolution time by 3 days, which lifted 90-day retention by 4 points. That second sentence is a number the C-suite recognizes. So it's the same work, same solution, completely different conversation with the people holding the budget. So now we need discipline. And it is a discipline because the activity metric is right there and it's easy for us to grab. And we can try to fight it a little bit by recognizing it and swapping the metric. We want to kill the activity count and replace it with outcomes every time. Faster is not a result. 3 days to faster, 4 points to retention, there is a result. And then we frame the return. Put AI spend in front of leadership as an investment with a return attached, not a cost you have to defend. We don't just say, this costs us 50K a year. That's just going to get cut. If we say this 50K returns 200K through these efforts, poof, now you get doubled. That same spend, different sentence. And last, bring one number, not a dashboard, not 40 charts of AI activity, one number leadership already cares about: revenue, retention, speed to value. One clean figure that connects to something they lose sleep over. That's what gets budget renewed. So as you look through these things, it's connecting it to those business outcomes our leaders care about, makes us more impactful product people. And here we are. That's all 5 steps. Let's land somewhere useful. I acknowledge there is risk with any framework like this. It's energizing as we're hearing it here. Orion's a good cheerleader. But then you close your laptop and the inbox is on fire, and by tomorrow, it's gone. Good intentions, very little change. But not today, everybody. We're going to do better. Let's talk about Monday morning when you're back at your desk, the webinar glow has worn off. Where do you start? So 3 things you can do this week, not this quarter, this week. First, audit your data, name what's broken. You're not fixing all of it by Friday. Just find the mess and call it out loud. Naming it is most of the battle. Second, put one person's name on AI ownership. Not a committee, not a team, one human being who owns the direction. If you only do one thing off this entire list, that's the one. If you're an individual contributor, go talk to your boss about who that person should be. If you're a leader, go talk to your peers and figure out who it should be. There you go. That's what we want to do, and do it quickly. Now, finally, we want to pick one outcome metric leadership cares about and commit to reporting it next month. That is an outcome metric that is associated with our usage of AI. Just one. Find the thing they care about. Again, revenue, retention, speed to value, could be a number of things, but find it. And then start tracking it and share it. And as we go through, we've got a data audit, one owner, one metric. That's what we can do quickly and we can do now. Everything else in this talk grows out of those 3. So start small and start soon, and you will find meaningful change results. So if you forget everything else from what I talked about over the last 45 minutes or so, keep this. The teams that win with AI aren't the ones moving the fastest. They're the ones measuring value and pointing AI at making more of it, of value that is. So because it runs against every instinct right now for us in the way we're operating, it could feel a little challenging. And that's because the whole industry is screaming at you to go faster, ship more, fall behind, or die. But speed with no measurement isn't progress. It's just expensive experimentation with better branding. So you're moving. Yes, you feel it. You're getting better at it. But right now, our organization's not helping us identify what we're moving towards. What do we need to move towards? So these 5 steps were never about slowing you down. You're already fast, and the data prove that. They're here about making sure all that speed is pointed at something that matters. So fast is easy. Fast in the right direction is the whole game. All right, Kenny, if you want
All
to.
right. So, if you are curious about the numbers behind beyond what Ryan just shared with us over the last 45, 50 minutes, click either in the link that's in the chat or use the QR code on the screen, and you can go into gory detail of what we learned in the State of the AI for Product Management report that's being published.
Mhm.
And if you want to learn more about AI or learn more about product management, we actually have an OPM course in Chicago, live and in person. If today resonated and you wanted to go further, we do have both in person and live online programs where you can sort of work through all of this in a structured way with your team. Details, again, are in the chat, and go with it and enjoy. We have another webinar coming shortly. Early in July, I am going to be helping Dean Peters do another version of AI. Basically, how to use vibe code and use vibe code not just to get running code out there, but actually use it to learn and what we can do to leverage some of the cool tools that are around in vibe coding to enable us to push forward in some of the product initiatives we do and learn a ton. So sign up for that one. Again, click on the screen, the chat, or use the QR code on your screen to now. And there's a whole bunch of courses that are coming up on Productside, both live online and in person, both for optimal product management and AI product management. Separate for now, starting to come together more and more. Feel free to join in, enjoy, and participate. You'll learn a ton from either myself or Dean in some of these classes. And with that, we will go to some questions and answers. So feel free to throw questions either into the chat or into the Q&A screen, and we'll go from there. We'll stop sharing so you can see our smiling faces in here. So a couple of questions have popped up so far. The first one is, how do we identify the right skills to learn AI in the first place? So where should we start in learning the right skills for AI? Any thoughts on that, Ryan?
Yeah, I think the what's one thing that I need to be using AI for as like to start learning skills, I think it's plugging into something like the product side community. Some of the things that we're doing, attending webinars like this one is a great place to start. But beyond that, Kenny, I would say, just like our report found, start playing with it. A lot of people are doing it already, and you're going to learn the most fastest by experimenting.
Yeah.
And go
Think
ahead.
of those things that take you a long time right now and you spend a lot of manual time with it, and
Mhm.
test and see if AI can help you with it. Make sure it gets the right context, make sure it has the right information, make sure you provide as much data as possible, but let it take a stab at it and see if it can help you gain insight faster.
Yeah, one thing I did on myself recently, Kenny, was so the AI that we use here at Productside has hooks in our project management software, our email, our Slack channels, everything. And I asked it to go look at what I'm doing every day and tell me where I have the most opportunity to leverage your help. And it did. It told me where it could help. So that was an easy way to do it.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, it's a good place to start.
Yeah.
And and don't be afraid to experiment. Another question came in that said, I understand the concept of identifying which metric to move. However, the key metric for internal usage is focused on efficiencies, and that's one of the least measured activity.
Ah, yes, internal product teams are always an interesting one. So looking at efficiency gain, yes. But even though it might not be a top line metric you're moving, we can still look at things like where am I? Like, how can I quantify time saved $2? I mean, you can correlate it to, hey, we pay these people this much money and now they're not doing that anymore. That saves them this amount of time.
Yeah.
Or we
So,
could frame it in terms of opportunity cost. Now they're able to do this other thing that's more valuable instead of this thing. So whether it's an internal team or not, I think we can look at in those areas to help measure.
all right, one last question that we can jump people off with. What's the one thing that I need to be using AI for as a product manager?
Oh, what is the one thing? Okay, so the one thing I recommend is putting me on the spot. I am going to recommend you use AI to sharpen your critical thinking skills. Critical thinking skills are so important for a product manager. And what I don't mean is let AI do the thinking for you. What I mean is to have AI test your thinking, have it ask you questions to uncover things you might not be considering, to surface hidden assumptions, to spot risks. So it's it's supplementing the human judgment that we bring to the table as product people. So I would say do start there. Like have it act as a assistant and coach as you're trying to get support.
Yeah, so it might be just take a document that you've created, throw it at AI, and say, how can I make this better? That's a simple way to just start
Yeah.
if you've not been there before.
Right. And then I always get it to ask me questions, like interview me, ask me questions. Like, so I'm giving it the appropriate context to be successful. It's a good way to use it.
Awesome. Okay, I hope you all found this valuable. We've hit the top of the hour, so keep the discussion going. Join our LinkedIn group and join our upcoming webinars. As I said, there's one in a couple of weeks. Have a great day, folks.
All right. Thanks, everybody.